Can I be honest? I want to stop you for a second. First and foremost, this is ringing off as you guys were young and you tried to rush a situation way faster than it needed to be. And you said you're 23. You're signing yourself up for a child and a marriage. Now, there's nothing quote unquote wrong with that if you did the steps beforehand. All because you're religious doesn't mean that you need to be doing that. You make those steps once you know yourself, once you found yourself, once you've actually know what you do and do not bring to the table. But you use religion as a justification to rush this, knowing that it wasn't right. You guys were cheating on each other from the very beginning. You get what I'm saying? Like, that wasn't giving you signs of marriage, but you put your religion right there so heavy that is making you make decisions in your real life that's starting to work against you. So that's one thing I want to highlight to you. A lot of that pressure that you're feeling to make this work, that's religious pressure. That's not spiritual or like love. That's pressure from your religion telling you that you need to have this right and you need to be acting a certain way. Now, if he wants to just be immature, right, because you said he's only 21, there's not a lot that we can really do about that situation, because you offered him marriage counseling, he didn't want to go. You were the only one that popped up. You're doing the right steps. You're doing what a wife would, right? But if he's not willing to make that decision for himself, you can't force him, and you can't sit here and lose yourself in it. Since you made that decision to keep that child, you have to focus on what you need to do moving forward. Right now, you're dwelling a lot on the past and what he did to you. We need to start shifting moving forward, because in less than 2 months, there's about to be another human here. So we don't have time to be dwelling like that. Of course, we acknowledge it and we grieve it, but we need to start getting in our solution headspace. What is this gonna look like for me? What do I need to start organizing in my life? How am I going to dedicate time to finding myself and learning myself while taking care of myself and a child? You got to start looking forward a little bit. And if he's going to change, he's going to change on his own timing. Hopefully, him having a kid opens his eyes a little bit, and he comes around sooner than later, but he comes around sometime in the future. We aren't sure of that, but you have to make sure you're good right now, because this is going to affect your child. You got to remember, you're bringing a life into this, and what you expose that child to is going to dictate how they live their life and what they experience. Now, you may not have a lot of control over this nigga, but you have a lot of control over how you're handling yourself right now, because it starts young, very young. Babies pick up on energy literally as babies. Well, there's two sides of that. For one, since you know that's what's preventing you from letting go, the power in you moving forward is in your hands. This is you strengthening yourself. This is you strengthening your discernment and your discipline. They teach you this in the military. Not because you want to go do it, don't mean you go do it. And if you have an urge or some shit like that, go do something else that's more productive. This is basic mental discipline. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is kind of the caveat to it, the nuance to what I'm about to say. It's actually completely normal. You're pregnant right now. Do you realize how many hormones is stirring up within you and how much, so you got to give yourself grace. Because it's not that you don't have discipline and you don't know what to do moving forward, because especially with the career that you have, you got the mental strength to pull yourself out of a nasty situation if you truly wanted to. But right now,
I'm just waiting on the right words to just snap me into that mindset.
But you have to let that happen.
I can't,
but that's exactly what it is. You have to let that happen. You're trying to skip the grieving process. That's like if, God forbid, you actually go out there and I don't know what you have not done. But let's say you go out there in the field one day. You're out there in Afghan or something like that, and you lose somebody out there. You're not going to be able to just come back over here and not give a fuck. You're going to grieve for a little second until you get back onto your feet. It's the same principle. You're grieving right now. So obviously you're gonna feel a little bit fucked up and you're gonna be going back because you're still processing. But that time is going to come as long as you just realize you're processing and stop beating yourself up. Like there's so many different factors right now that's influencing why you feel like this, that you shouldn't even be mad at yourself for feeling like this, because it's actually really valid. Everybody would feel like this. This is actually the most human reaction you could have to getting married to somebody, having their child, and then them acting stupid while the child is literally inside of you. This is one of the most human reactions. But that's what I'm saying. That's the grieving process, for one. Like you're trying to stop grieving or skip grieving when that's only gonna make it harder, because instead of you actually sitting in it and allowing yourself to rest, like even if you need to go to sleep more, instead of fighting it and feeling bad that you feel it and trying to turn it off, let you feel it, because you may get some insight from that. Now that's a spiritual practice within itself. God speaks to you through your heart. So you need to let your heart speak for a second, whether that's you journaling, you talking to like a video that you never post, a little voice memo, something. You need to figure out how to get it out so you can get those epiphanies and that understanding, because you're stopping yourself in the process. But if you let it go, you're gonna get the thoughts, you're gonna get that clarity and shit you're asking for. But like I'm saying, there's always that double side, because there's a logical aspect to this. When you notice that you're looping, catch yourself. If you can notice that you're looping, force yourself to do something different that's a little bit more aligned or makes more sense to you. Meaning, if you see yourself logging into his Instagram, maybe it's best that you delete the whole app in totality and you go on a walk. Now, you may feel like it again in 30 minutes, 45 minutes, but then you can address it then 45 minutes from there. The moment, the principle is, in the moment you were present and you didn't react to it. Like you have to train yourself to not do those things. Like it's not saying that you're not gonna fuck up. It's not saying that you're not gonna eventually find the time to log into his Instagram or go stalk his page or some shit like that, because you're grieving and you're still attached. But if it took you 5 times throughout the day before you finally just gave in and did it, you got to acknowledge those 5 times before you actually gave in. That's the signs of the healing you need to be looking for. That's like if you were on drugs or something, you can't cold turkey. But if that person went from taking drugs every single day to once every 2 weeks, we can acknowledge some type of healing. They're still an addict, but something switched. They're on the way to letting it go. You have to give yourself that same perspective. That's why I'm like, you're not letting yourself grieve.
This is about
No, but this is exactly what that is about. Because while you were healing and you were going through that phase, instead of digging down into yourself and figuring out what you wanted to accomplish, figuring out what you wanted for yourself and how you envisioned that, you viewed that as an opportunity to prove him wrong. And then that led you to meeting this dude. Because the energy of the military within itself probably isn't that true to you. You may actually be into fitness and discipline and all that other type of shit, but maybe it wasn't the military. That was because of him. And since you were trying to fill that void, that was your attempt at filling that void. So that's why I'm like, you have to pull back a little bit and start asking yourself, what, like they always say, self-love is the best love. But sometimes they don't actually get deep and like explain these things to you. What do you need? What makes you feel good? What are your wants as long as your needs? Because the needs is very important. Like some people get really anxious and like discombobulated when they're lacking emotional support. That's their need. So you exhibiting self-love is only putting yourself around people who show you that emotional support. Whether it's a friend, family member, co-worker, partner, that's loving yourself, because you know that's your need. And if it's not being acquired or if it's not being gave to you by somebody, you remove yourself, because you love yourself enough to know if you keep them around you, you're gonna lose yourself. See, now that's what I'm talking about. Now that's the root cause. If you focus on that and actually getting more understanding from your parents, understand where you could possibly be acting like your parents, because things don't happen consequently. If you're facing the karma, that's because that generational curse was passed down to you, which means certain habits and certain belief systems were passed down to you, which is why you're probably manifesting some of the same situations. So understanding what they did, how they lived their lives, how their lives affected you, and not holding any guilt or shame behind it, actually releasing it and fixing the relationship if you could, right? Because some people's parents are toxic as shit. But if that's not the case, if you bring more attention over there, it will always heal the relationship aspect. If you feel love from your parents, if you feel forgave by your parents, if you can forgive your parents and all that other type of shit, it's a million times easier to give that grace to this dude. Because the same way your parents aren't going anywhere, now that you have this child, this nigga isn't going anywhere either. So you're gonna have to learn how to love people from a distance and not allow what they did to be a dictating factor in how you live your life. All because they did what they did in their life does not mean that you need to suffer for it, unless you allow it to. Most of us allow it to because it's subconscious and we don't know that we're acting just like said parent, or we're